The discoveries they buried. Some discoveries rewrite history. Others are quietly forgotten. And a rare few are erased on purpose. They were found by accident. Revealed through excavation, exploration, or sheer curiosity. But once uncovered, they were met not with celebration, but with silence. Because these discoveries didn't fit the story. They challenged power, threatened belief systems, and exposed truths some would rather keep buried. Today, we uncover 12 real discoveries that were hidden, banned, or covered up, and ask the question, this is lesson lost, and these are the 12 most banned discoveries in history. The discoveries they buried. Some discoveries rewrite history. Others are quietly forgotten. And a rare few are erased on purpose. They were found by accident. Revealed through excavation, exploration, or sheer curiosity. But once uncovered, they were met not with celebration, but with silence. Because these discoveries didn't fit the story. They challenged power, threatened belief systems, and exposed truths some would rather keep buried. Today, we uncover 12 real discoveries that were hidden, banned, or covered up, and ask the question, this is lesson lost, and these are the 12 most banned discoveries in history. Flying Saucer 2. The Dropper Stones, discs that tell an alien story. In the 1930s, in a remote mountain cave on the border of China and Tibet, an expedition led by Chinese archaeologist Qipu Tei made a startling discovery. They found rows of tiny skeletons buried in shallow graves, with large heads and frail, thin bodies, nothing like any known human remains. But even stranger was what lay beside them. Hundreds of stone discs, each about a foot wide, with a perfectly drilled hole in the center and tiny spiraling grooves carved into the surface. When the grooves were studied decades later, researchers claimed they contained a story, written in microscopic characters. A story about a spacecraft that crashed thousands of years ago, and the beings inside it, the dropper, who could not return home. It sounded like science fiction. Too strange to be real. Chinese authorities quickly denied the findings, and the artifacts were allegedly removed or lost. The museum that once held them burned down. The researchers who translated them discredited and vanished from public record. No peer-reviewed papers. No further excavations. Just a whisper in archaeological history, about a people, or something else entirely, that might have come from beyond the stars. World Map 3. The Piri Reis Map, a world before we mapped it, in 1929, while cataloguing artifacts at the Topkapi Palace in Istanbul, a group of scholars found a fragment of a world map drawn on gazelle skin. It was dated to 1513, and signed by Piri Reis, a respected Ottoman admiral. At first glance, the map seemed ordinary. But closer inspection revealed something impossible. It showed South America, with astonishing accuracy. The Amazon River, the Andes Mountains, and even parts of Antarctica, centuries before they were officially discovered. The coastline of Antarctica was especially puzzling. It appeared ice-free, matching modern seismic maps of the land beneath the ice, something we only discovered in the 20th century using advanced radar. But how could a 16th century admiral draw something we only recently proved? Piri Reis claimed he didn't map it himself. He compiled it using ancient charts from long-lost civilizations. When this came to light, historians downplayed the implications. The map was labeled a curiosity, not a revelation. Academic journals refused to explore its deeper meaning. Textbooks never mentioned it. And mainstream cartography moved on. A centuries-old piece of animal skin that suggested we once had maps to a world we weren't supposed to know existed. Ringed Planet 4. The Dogu figurines, spacesuits in stone. In the northern regions of Japan, archaeologists have uncovered thousands of mysterious clay figures. They date back to the Jomon period, over 7,000 years ago. They're called Dogu figurines, and no one really knows what they are. Some look human, but others don't. They have large, round eyes that resemble goggles, bulky torsos, jointed limbs, and helmet-like heads. Some appear to be wearing armor or breathing equipment. To the modern eye, they look less like ancient idols, and more like astronauts in spacesuits. Mainstream archaeologists say they were fertility symbols. But no two dogu look alike. And their strange, mechanical appearance doesn't match any known symbolism of the time. In the 1970s, the dogu were popularized by theories linking them to ancient astronauts, visitors from another world, remembered not in words, but in clay. The Japanese government downplayed the hype. Museums avoided displaying the more mechanical-looking figures. And debate about their meaning was quietly discouraged. Were the dogu visions, myths, or memories? We may never know. But 7,000 years ago, someone carved something that still looks futuristic, even today. Flying Saucer 5. The Lolladov Plate, a flying saucer in ancient India. In the late 1940s, a British explorer traveling through northern India claimed to have found a strange artifact in a remote Himalayan monastery. It was a stone plate, flat and circular, now known as the Lolladov Plate. Etched into its surface were a series of spiral patterns, geometric shapes, and most curiously, a small, humanoid figure with an oversized head and slender body, standing beside what appeared to be a classic flying saucer. This was no ordinary symbol. It looked like something out of a 20th century UFO file. The plate was said to be over 12,000 years old, dating back to a time long before recorded history. Skeptics called it a hoax. Mainstream academia never acknowledged it. The artifact itself vanished from public display, and no official excavation report was ever published. But the image lived on, shared in underground UFO journals, fringe documentaries, and conspiracy forums. If real, the Lolladov Plate would be one of the earliest depictions of extraterrestrial contact in human history. If fake, it was a fabrication so detailed, it still hasn't been convincingly debunked. Either way, the plate tells a story, one that scholars refuse to read. Foot 6. The giant footprint of South Africa, evidence carved in stone. In the granite hills of Mpumalanga, South Africa, there lies a massive indentation in solid rock, a footprint, over 4 feet long. Locals call it the footprint of God. Geologists estimate the rock is between 200 million and 3 billion years old. And while erosion can do strange things, this impression looks eerily deliberate: toes, arch, heel, all aligned in proportion. It's not just a mark, it's a perfect left foot embedded in stone. The discovery was never officially investigated. No scientific journals. No academic interest. Why? Because if it's real, it suggests a being over 20 feet tall once stepped there, before humans even existed. Mainstream science labels it a coincidence. Just erosion. Just pareidolia, our brains seeing patterns where none exist. But if it's so meaningless, why won't anyone study it? It's still there today. Untouched. Ignored. Too big to explain, and too big to accept. Airplane 7. The Nazca Lines, messages for the sky. In the vast desert plains of southern Peru, ancient hands etched massive geometric shapes into the earth. So massive, they can only be seen from the sky. These are the Nazca Lines, hundreds of drawings carved directly into the landscape. Spanning miles, the designs include perfectly straight lines, spirals, animals like hummingbirds, monkeys, spiders, and humanoid figures with enormous eyes. They were made over 2,000 years ago, a culture with no known way to fly, no high-altitude tools, and no written language. So how did they design shapes that only make sense from above? Mainstream scholars suggest they were ceremonial pathways, or offerings to gods watching from the heavens. But others wonder. Some of the straight lines stretch for miles, as if marking landing paths. Others align with astronomical events, or mirror star constellations. Despite decades of research, no one knows how they were made so precisely, or why they were made at all. The Nazca Lines remain one of the great unsolved puzzles of ancient engineering, too big for the ground, too perfect for coincidence, and still waiting for an answer. Classical Building 8. The hidden chambers of the Great Pyramid, what lies behind the walls? For centuries, the Great Pyramid of Giza has stood as a symbol of ancient ingenuity: 13 acres of stone, 2.3 million blocks, and a mystery that still confounds modern engineers. But in 2017, using cosmic ray technology, scientists made a groundbreaking discovery: a previously unknown chamber hidden deep inside the pyramid. They called it the Scan Pyramid's Big Void, a space at least 100 feet long, above the Grand Gallery, and completely inaccessible. No tools. No tunnels. No entrances. Just an empty space, untouched for over 4,500 years. And yet, no one has entered it. No plans have been made to investigate. And Egypt's Ministry of Antiquities quickly downplayed its importance. Why? Some say it's to protect the pyramid structure. Others believe it's to protect its secrets. Could it contain a lost sarcophagus? Ancient technology? Or evidence of a civilization far more advanced than we've imagined? The pyramid speaks in stone. But inside, something may still be waiting. And for now, it remains sealed, like a truth no one wants to open. Coin 9. The Copper Scroll, a treasure map that no one will touch. In 1952, deep within the caves of Qumran near the Dead Sea, archaeologists discovered something that didn't belong. Unlike the fragile parchment and leather of the other Dead Sea Scrolls, this one was etched on pure copper, rolled up, corroded, and nearly impossible to open. Once decoded, the Copper Scroll revealed a list. But not of prayers or scripture. A list of treasures. 63 locations. With precise measurements. Describing tons of gold, silver, and ritual artifacts hidden beneath specific landmarks in ancient Israel. Some scholars believe the scroll describes treasures from the Second Temple, hidden before its destruction by the Romans. Others think it's a hoax, a fantasy, or a symbolic text. But here's the real mystery: the Israeli Antiquities Authority refuses to dig. The Vatican has never commented. And the exact locations remain unverified, or possibly already recovered in secret. Why would a document this detailed be ignored? Some believe the treasures are too politically sensitive. Others say the scroll threatens modern religious narratives. Whatever the truth, the Copper Scroll remains one of the only ancient documents that gives us a clear map, and no one wants to follow it. Coin 9. The Copper Scroll, a treasure map that no one will touch. In 1952, deep within the caves of Qumran near the Dead Sea, archaeologists discovered something that didn't belong. Unlike the fragile parchment and leather of the other Dead Sea Scrolls, this one was etched on pure copper, rolled up, corroded, and nearly impossible to open. Once decoded, the Copper Scroll revealed a list. But not of prayers or scripture. A list of treasures. 63 locations. With precise measurements. Describing tons of gold, silver, and ritual artifacts hidden beneath specific landmarks in ancient Israel. Some scholars believe the scroll describes treasures from the Second Temple, hidden before its destruction by the Romans. Others think it's a hoax, a fantasy, or a symbolic text. But here's the real mystery: the Israeli Antiquities Authority refuses to dig. The Vatican has never commented. And the exact locations remain unverified, or possibly already recovered in secret. Why would a document this detailed be ignored? Some believe the treasures are too politically sensitive. Others say the scroll threatens modern religious narratives. Whatever the truth, the Copper Scroll remains one of the only ancient documents that gives us a clear map, and no one wants to follow it. Moai 11. The Smithsonian Cover-Up. Where did the giants go? Throughout the 19th and early 20th centuries, farmers, construction crews, and archaeologists across North America reported finding massive human skeletons. Some were over 7 feet tall. Others had elongated skulls, double rows of teeth, or strange burial positions. Newspapers published hundreds of articles. Photos were taken. Bones were boxed and shipped, often to one place, the Smithsonian Institution. And then, nothing. No exhibitions. No academic papers. No public records. The bones, according to witnesses, vanished. In 2014, the American Institution of Alternative Archaeology alleged that the Smithsonian had destroyed thousands of giant skeletons to protect the mainstream narrative of human history. The Smithsonian denied the claim, calling it a hoax. But the discrepancies in their own shipping logs, and the number of bones unaccounted for, raised serious questions. Why would a respected institution suppress such findings? Because giants challenge evolution. They challenge biblical interpretation. They suggest we don't fully understand the human past, or who came before us. Even today, whispers of cover-ups, forbidden excavations, and missing remains continue to circulate. A world where bigger beings once walked the earth, but their footprints were quietly swept away. Books 12. The Book of Soiga, a book that kills those who decode it in the 1500s, the English mathematician and occultist John Dee, advisor to Queen Elizabeth I, came across a mysterious Latin manuscript. It was filled with numerical tables, arcane codes, and demonic references. He called it the Book of Soiga. Dee believed the book was not of human origin. He claimed it had been revealed to Adam in the Garden of Eden, and held forbidden knowledge lost to mankind. He spent years trying to decode it. When he finally asked a spiritual medium to consult with the angel Uriel, the response was chilling. John Dee died shortly after, poor, discredited, and tormented. The book itself was thought lost for centuries. Then in 1994, 2 copies resurfaced in the British Library and Bodleian Library. Scholars tried to crack the codes. Some made progress. And within months, one researcher died unexpectedly. The text remains partially unsolved. Its meaning unclear. Its reputation intact. A book that whispers through time, and punishes those who listen too closely. Truth doesn't disappear. It gets buried. History is supposed to be written in stone. But time, and power, have a way of hiding the parts that don't fit. These discoveries weren't myths. They weren't theories. They were real. They were documented. And then, they were silenced. Not because they were false, but because they were inconvenient. They threatened beliefs. They disrupted systems. They exposed stories that were never meant to be told. But truth doesn't disappear. It waits, in sand, in the archives, in the cracks of forgotten walls, until someone's ready to find it. And now, that someone is you. Megaphone call to action. Speak to the viewer speech balloon. Which band discovery shocked you the most? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We highlight the best ones in upcoming videos. Thumbs up, like this video if it made you question what you've been told. Bell, subscribe to Lesson Lost for more hidden truths, buried history, and untold stories. Because what we're not taught is often what matters most.